Is that you, Paul?
Yes, sir. How's it going, man?
How did I know?
I'm so subtle, you know?
How's things going? Good?
Yeah, I'm better than some, worse than others. How you feeling, man?
Good. You're probably really busy, huh? With you're on the CPRB, right?
Yeah, that's
And what-
been fun.
Huh?
Surprisingly, there's been pushback. Wow, who knew that was gonna happen?
Oh, with the new what was it? Local
Yeah,
law.
Prop 7, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the good thing is that, you know, it passed with an overwhelming majority, like, you know, it wasn't even close. And more people actually voted yes for that than voted in the mayoral election. So, you know, that tells us people are engaged and pretty clearly on one side of things, you know. But
That's great.
there's always a counter argument, and there's always an other side, and you know, the other side is, you know, playing their position. They're doing what they're supposed to do. So, hey, man, we'll do what we're supposed to do.
And so you're here, you're with the community leadership team, right?
Right. This is for, yeah, CLT.
And what neighborhood do you live in?
I'm in the South End. I live like right by Lincoln Park.
Oh, okay.
Which helps when I need to know updates. I want to see what's going on. I'll just take my dog for a walk and I'm good. Two birds, you know?
That. Hi, Alan. Hi, Louise.
Good.
Let's talk about the next.
Hi, Pat. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Zach.
Everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, Howie. Hi, Louise. Okay. How's everybody? Everyone have a nice holiday?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. And you, Zach?
It was good. Busy. I had two Thanksgiving dinners, one here, one in Connecticut.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
How'd that work?
Good.
One had, which days were they?
So Thanksgiving was at my dad's up in Knox, where I grew up in the hill towns, and then Saturday went to Danbury, Connecticut.
All right. And when my in-laws were alive and we did that, my parents liked Thanksgiving and my in-laws liked to have it on Saturday.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you. Hi,
How you doing?
Karen. Hi. Good. Great.
How do, Zach?
Hey, Dan. How are you?
Pretty good.
I think was there the last of the Lincoln Park pool meetings? I think I saw something.
Yeah, they just had that. I didn't go to it, unfortunately.
There's been good participation and stuff, and the idea has been floated about possibly having more. So we're gonna see if we can make that happen.
John, hi, John. Good to see you.
Good evening.
Good to see you. Officer Storiali, good to see you. I'll give it another minute, everybody.
Good evening.
Hey, Ray, how are you today?
Hey, wonderful. Nice to see you guys. Hey, Salvatore, it's Joe Kniff. Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Lynn, how you doing?
All right, why don't we get started at 6:31? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the December 1st, 2021 Council of Albany Neighborhood Associations meeting. I'm the chair, Zach Simpson. Thank you for joining us. I hope everybody had a nice holiday, nice Thanksgiving, and welcome back. Just wanted to mention a couple things. I wanted to give a big shout out to the new recruits at the Albany Police Department for helping out at Westland Hills with the last cleanup of the year. 27 came to help us out. So shout out to the new recruits. Appreciated it. Also, just wanted to mention that also at Westland Hills in the baseball and softball fields, there's a Our Angels Remembered holiday tree display. There's about 100 trees, and it's in memory of lost loved ones. So if you have a chance, I encourage you to go check it out. And the best way to get there is through the entrance off of Austin. So I've got a couple more people coming in. So I think first I'll just turn it over to the Albany Police Department to give us their monthly update. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Dan Webster. I am Community Resource Officer for Uptown Albany Police Department, Center Station. So a few things I'm going to go over. So I went through the stats, and I called out to our detective office, and I talked to some of those guys to see what's pending and what's going on right now. Right now, they're having a big catalytic converter larceny problem going on. Somebody, they think it's maybe just one or a few people that are stealing catalytic converters off of cars. Apparently they have street value. So I don't think they're accessible to most cars. It's probably just trucks and that kind of stuff. But that is something that they're really working on right now, on top of our violent crime that we're always working on. But it's also the Christmas season is here. The holidays bring out desperation. So this is a year we do it all year. We always advise about keeping cars locked and stuff like that. But vehicle larcenies, burglaries, and robberies generally go up in December. December is generally one of the highest crime months we have all year. For that very reason, holidays bring out desperation in people, and they might do something they wouldn't normally do. So keep that in mind. Pass it along to your neighborhoods and all that, to keep doors locked. houses. And I also asked them, they're not getting a big rush of car larcenies from locked cars. So if the car is locked and there's nothing visible, you should be in good shape. I also, last month, I said that our burgs were up, but it went down this past month. So that's a good sign. Maybe that was just a statistical anomaly for 1 month. Burglaries were up and now they're actually down for the year. And I'm sure that's still to do with a lot of people are home because of COVID. And burglary is basically when somebody breaks in somebody's house. One other thing. So at this point, we've had 95 gun arrests this year and 110 guns taken off the street. So I always like to keep that number going because sometimes we have the shootings that people get discouraged and think that nothing's being done. But we're grabbing guns, as I feel like, every week. So I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, because when I started 17 years ago, it didn't happen that often. It was hard to get guns off the street. Maybe more people are carrying them. So I would be cautious of that too. But we are out there getting guns off the street. So if anybody has any questions, go for it.
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
Ray Moran here. Would you want to mention that the community liaison program for the new recruits?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No problem. I can discuss on that. So I imagine a lot of you have been contacted or are also doing this, that once a week we are having recruits for an hour. I think they're mostly on Fridays, meet with community members and just to talk about some of the things that are on people's mind about policing and, what they're looking for in future officers. So that program is underway. If anybody's interested in getting involved in that, let me know. Shoot me an email. I'll pass it along to the people organizing that. It's an hour. You can meet pretty much anywhere you'd like. It's usually on Fridays at 4:00, which I thought was not a very good time to do it, but that's above my pay grade. So if anybody's interested in getting involved in that, I'll put my email on the bottom thing. Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, I got a phone call earlier from Center Station, and they was particularly looking for people down in the first and second wards. And I think I see Dan Van Ripper there. So, Dan, how about volunteering? Thanks, Dan.
I'll think about it. How's that?
Yeah. That's never too late. We got this academy is just getting started, so we got a long time. If anybody decides after the holidays they want to get involved, just let us know. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, Officer Webster. Officers Johnson, Storiali, are you still on?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I cover the Beverwick area, North Allen, West Street, Bradford. I have a bit of feedback. I don't know what that's from. Just to make everybody aware, in the area that I cover, I've just noticed an increase in package thefts from people's front porches in the past month. So just be aware, just know when your packages are being dropped off. It's only going to get worse for December because of Christmas gifts and all that. So we did make one arrest involving that. He was responsible for numerous larcenies from stores and several package thefts. So, just be aware of that. There are a lot of people out there looking for that. And that's pretty much it for me. Does anybody have any questions? Dan covered pretty much everything. So.
Yes, this is how you talked about package thefts. Not that we've had it, but a lot of people have doorbell cameras now.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people report package thefts, do you look to find out who has cameras on the street?
Absolutely, we do. That's something that we always look at. We do a canvass of the area, the surrounding houses, to see who does have cameras. Ring has been an incredible tool for us. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop. It's not actually even a deterrent for a lot of people. they're very brazen. They'll wear a mask over their face and continue to steal. So, but we do look at all that. It's just sometimes it's very hard to identify the person responsible due to wearing masks. And now with COVID, masks obviously aren't something that is suspicious because everybody's wearing a mask nowadays. So if somebody's wearing a mask down the street in 90-degree weather, it's not something we would even look at. So just keep in mind, we have to protect ourselves because it's very hard to identify a lot of people because of that.
Pat Doyle with Melrose, she has her hand up.
I do. I saw the post on I think it was the APD Facebook page about that gentleman who was arrested after the Pine Avenue theft and all those things, but it said he was released at the end. And
That's correct.
so is there, like, who do we write to say we want to change that? I'm sure that wasn't your guys' decision.
Well, yeah, I mean, that has a lot to do with the bail reform laws and all that are in place. I mean, if people aren't happy with that, the way that's going, that's above our politics. Right. That's governor level.
Governor level.
You know,
okay.
Governor level. I mean, the mayor of New York City has expressed his displeasure in bail reform and all that. So everybody can do that, but that's the level that it's at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's something you bring to the legislature, the state legislature. Yeah.
Okay, we have Janet Nally with her hand up. Janet. Just got to unmute yourself, Janet. Okay. Anybody else have questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, there's a word squad. Janet, are you able to unmute yourself with your question? Okay. Okay. No problem. Sorry, Janet.
She left a message, something about a warrant squad. We don't really have a warrant squad. We might have had something like that like 20, 30 years ago, but we do have some detectives that do go out and track down warrants. One in particular. I think actually it's down to one. If that answers her question. That was in the chat.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, officers. Appreciate it as always. All right. So tonight we are going to start off our neighborhood go around. We have 5 different neighborhoods that are here to present, and we're gonna start them up. Thank you very much, everybody that agreed to participate. We're going to start off with the Beverwick Neighborhood Association, and I believe I saw Michelle, whenever you're ready. Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, hi. Nice to see you all, nice to be here, I guess. We've been meeting by Zoom. Our neighborhood, we go from Central Avenue down to Washington, and then let's see, Cleveland Street or so. I think actually Roosevelt Street is the furthest west, and then we go as far as Ontario Street. So that's where our neighborhood boundaries are. And we've been meeting by Zoom this past year and a half, and that's been it's been mixed. I think overall it's been good, though. We had a small group to start with, so by going on Zoom, we really didn't gain that many people. I think there was a little bit more participation in a way from the presenters, because our presenters could always be there. We're top heavy on presenters rather than guests, but it's going okay, and I haven't heard clamoring for going back to in-person meetings or not. So we'll probably keep doing this for a little bit more at least. Let me see. Typically, our agenda is, we Alfredo's the ward leader for us. So he'll give a report. Sal, of course, gives a police report. Zach will say a few words about Cana and Uptown Neighborhood Co-op, and then we usually have Luke say something also, just because we have a lot of students in our area. So it's nice to get the SUNY updates and find out what's going on there as well. Sometimes occasionally we have speakers, not every time, maybe every other time we'll have something that comes along. I think two of the more interesting ones this past year or so were ones on renters and landlords, just because we have a lot of renters and landlords in our area, and just trying to find some best practices for both of those and how to strengthen that relationship and how to be a good landlord and what tenants should look for. We had the guy from United Tenants of Albany come and speak with us, and it was just sort of interesting how that works. So our last meeting, there was some discussion about the Colby Street Playground. And even though Colby Street Playground is not directly in our neighborhood, it's probably the closest playground near us. So I know we had some folks that were interested in that and having the input on that. Since the city's going to spend some more money there, we wanted to know a little bit more how that process worked. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else we had this year. We had a water department representative come, traffic engineering, just to take care of there were some questions from some of our members that we just felt it would best to get a city perspective on that. Let's see, we did a cleanup street on North Allen or two. That's always a little bit, it really looks nice for a day and a half, I must say, and then it goes back to looking crummy again, but it's just, there's a couple houses there that just have a mess all the time in their front yard, no matter what. So I'm trying to think, what kind of questions does everybody have that I could answer? Zach, you've been to many of our meetings. You typically know how they run.
Oh yeah, and you always have a good variety of speakers that come in. So, does anybody have questions for Michelle at Beverwick?
All right.
Karen Kniff.
Hi, Michelle. I think our neighborhood associations border because we are just above Roosevelt. So you're talking about when you have a neighborhood cleanup that it looks good for a day and a half or 2 days, and then it goes right down the tubes again. Why can't we approach codes and have codes come in to these properties and say, you need to clean it up? Because it's really a quality of life issue for the neighborhood.
It really is. I agree. And we've put in, it's probably about 6 houses, you know what I mean, that are really, really bad. And we've put in the C-Clicks tickets, and the city has, taken some action on them, but then it just goes right back too. So it really is, I do agree with you. It is a codes thing. And, Rick LaJoy, he's aware of this because we've spoken to him about these problem homes before. It just seems like it's a process to go through the, you put the C-Clicks tickets in, and after a couple weeks they get looked at, and then finally the city takes action on it, and then I don't know, like garbage blows on my yard too, but you know what? I pick it up every day.
Absolutely. I pick up trash in
And
the
and I think
streets,
they're
but,
just renters
but
and don't
when we
care.
have, when we have chronic, chronic issues with particular properties, I
Yeah.
think that we need codes to be a little more active in addressing that, so everyone in the community can have a better quality of life.
Right, agree. Maybe we can have Rick come to, he comes to our meetings occasionally. We can get him back in there again and get that. I appreciate your comments.
What is the status of that apartment house that was notorious for a number of years? Is anything going on there, or is it cleaned up?
Oh, I'm not
no.
sure.
The one on North Allen,
Oh, that's cleaned up actually.
and it stayed clean?
Are you talking about that big old Plouffe house on the corner of North Allen and Chestnut?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that they redid that and it looks really nice too. I don't think it's Plouffe any longer because it doesn't have the Plouffe colors. And they sided it, put new windows on it. It looks really, really nice.
Well, that's good news for a change.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
One of speaking of apartment houses, one of the big concerns a couple of years ago for our neighborhood was the big apartment building that was going to be newly constructed at 526 Central Avenue. And there was a lot of concerns there, and part of the neighborhood was very pro apartment building, like, hey, this is an ugly, vacant, rat-ridden lot. Let's make a productive piece of property into a productive piece of property. And the other neighbors on Manning Boulevard and Kent Street, they're like, oh no, we don't want anything done with that. Construction is going to be noisy. We don't know what's going to be. There's going to be parking problems, the traffic and left-hand turns. But you know what, quite honestly, once they got it constructed, of course, there is noise and stuff during the construction process, but hey, you're building a big 5-story building, right? But, really, we have not heard any complaints on that. And this is one thing I know I've asked Sal to keep track of, the police calls there, because there was some little bit of concern about it turning into, I think, like Central Towers down on Central Avenue. I don't know what number that is there, but, and the crime and everything that goes along with that apartment building. But you know what? The one at 526, it's been good. It's been very good. And it's nice. I took a tour of it last summer when they had an open house. It was nice. Very, very nice. So the neighbors seem friendly. I'd love to get some of them to come regularly to our meetings. I've spoken with the manager there a couple of times, and while she's very pleasant, we haven't had regular representation from her yet either. So we'll see.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Anybody else got questions for Beverwick? Oh, Alan Lesak?
Yeah, just very, very quickly, Michelle, I just want to mention the fact that on the downside, we've, and for everyone else for that matter, we've lost some, I think what would be seen as important businesses the last year and a half. Walgreens at 581 Central, that store closed, I think it was June of 2020. And more recently, the Sable Lot on the corner of Central and West Lawrence, they closed the middle of October of this year. Both of those stores were really very convenient for people who walk through the areas, walk to get their medications, walk to get their supplies, walk to get their food. So that is, I don't know what's going to take the place of either of those stores. Right now, the buildings are vacant. And it's too bad because, as Michelle just said, we have a new apartment building that has gone up. which I think could be a big boost to the residents there as well as the residents throughout the community. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ellen.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Okay. All right. So next we're going to head down to the Downtown Neighborhood Association. We have Riley Ackley. He is the newly elected president of the new Downtown Neighborhood Association. So Riley, thank you for being part of the neighborhood go around tonight. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Newly elected last night. We had our November meeting, kind of a late November meeting because of the holiday. We are obviously a very new downtown neighborhood association because downtown is such a fledgling neighborhood in itself. We have a lot of new constructions and refurbished buildings that are popping up. So it makes sense that we would join the echelon of all the other neighborhoods around Albany. And so we're still getting up and going. We've had 7 meetings now where we've passed our bylaws and done a lot of the logistics. We've had 1 in-person meeting, and while we wait for a more permanent location for our future meetings, we are back virtually. We'd like to start doing some more social events because we think that people in downtown Albany are looking for a sense of community so that it doesn't feel like such a transient space and it feels more like a long-term home and community. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be a part of this. I want to learn from everyone and see what you guys are doing that works for other neighborhood associations and things that could possibly work for ours as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Riley. Does anybody have any questions? Vince Raguso, Eagle Hill.
Vince Raguso, Eagle Hill Neighborhood Association. Can you tell us your boundaries of downtown neighborhood associations, please?
Yeah, so our boundaries are currently very nicely built for us in advance. Because we're filling an empty space that previously had no neighborhood association. So we've built our boundaries around existing ones. To the north, we have Livingston Avenue and the Amtrak Bridge. To the south, we have the South Mall Arterial up to the plaza. And then we obviously have the Hudson River. And then we go up to the Capitol on State Street and down.
Thank you.
Okay, we got Maura McNulty and Melrose with your hand up. Maura.
Hi there. So I was just inspired when you said, Riley, about looking for ways to connect with other neighborhoods. And I just wanted to say very quickly that I was just in a meeting planning for Earth Day activities in neighborhoods. And I just want to say at some point, I would love to connect with folks through Cana about things that we can do in neighborhoods for Earth Day next April.
Yeah, definitely. Downtown has a lot of trash sometimes, so.
Well, that's one of the things that we're, one of the sort of drives we're talking about doing. I know Zach's kind of an expert at setting those things up, but anyway, I don't want to belabor it. I just want to kind of put that in people's minds.
Yeah, for sure.
The questions for downtown? All right, and downtown is officially a Cana member now, so the dues paying member. So thank you. Welcome to our organization. Appreciate it.
Excited to be here.
Great. Thank you. All right, let's go to Midtown where we have Chris Halpin. He is here to represent the Helderberg Neighborhood Association. Chris, thanks for joining us tonight. Whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Zach, and thanks APD for keeping us safe, and congratulations, Riley. So yeah, my name is Chris Halpin. I'm the treasurer of the Helderberg Neighborhood Association. Our chair, Hillary Papineau, couldn't be with us tonight, so I'm filling in for her. And I've been on the board since 2019. The Helderberg Neighborhood Association, so our boundaries are New Scotland Avenue to Hackett Boulevard, and from Academy Road to Manning Boulevard. So think Sage College to St. Peter's Hospital. We currently have 119 dues paying members. We've been working actively over the past couple of years to really boost that up, and we've been doing a good job with that. Our neighborhood comprises homeowners, renters. We also have been very active in trying to engage the businesses on the New Scotland Avenue Strip to ensure that they're part of the neighborhood and to make sure that we're all communicating with one another and, all on the same page, and we can support them and they can support us, hopefully. This past year, just to talk about a few of our priorities and some of the things that we've been focusing on. Our biggest priority this year has been saving the post office on New Scotland Avenue. Many of you may know that the building 563 New Scotland Avenue that used to house the post office has been redeveloped. The building is now torn down, but the Helderberg Neighborhood Association's position is that we really want to see the post office remain in that location once the spot is redeveloped. It's going to be a mixed-use developed site close to the development that's happened over near Albany Medical Center. And just to give you an update on where we're at with that, there's currently a temporary post office. We've been working alongside our representatives, including Congressman Tonko, who's been very helpful to us, Assemblywoman Fahey, and our council members, Kathy Fahey and Judy Duche, have been helpful to us in terms of communicating with the developer, the mayor, and the United States Postal Service to ensure that the post office stays. So where we stand right now is that there's a temporary location for the post office on Ontario Street, where the old Palladium site used to be. So that's been redeveloped. The same developer who's developing the 563 location is the person who owns the Palladium location. The post office, United States Post Office, has not made any commitments yet to where their permanent location is going to be. So it's still an ongoing issue that we are working on, and it's probably going to be something that is going to be ongoing for a couple of years now. The post office just doesn't want to commit to a location. They're rebranding themselves and going smaller, but the developer did promise that he included a space for the post office to remain in that site. So we are hopeful, and we will continue to engage in that front. So that's kind of been our biggest priority this past year. One of the other things, we had a business panel at our March meeting earlier this year, where we invited the businesses along New Scotland Avenue to come and speak about how the pandemic has affected their business and their operations. And one of the things, we heard, not necessarily pandemic related, but I'm sure all of you are familiar with Raganese. They wanted to let us know that they were concerned about some streetlight issues, and the area where they're around at night is kind of dark. And the neighborhood association took that, and we went to our elected officials. We talked with the city light manager, and brought him in for a meeting. And I know that we're currently engaged on trying to just ensure that, the strip along New Scotland Avenue is lit properly for safety purposes. So that's been our focus as well. So right now we've just been focusing on neighborhood safety issues. In general, I'd say our neighborhood is a safe place to live. But that doesn't mean that there's not instances that pop up. And we do have our monthly meetings. Some of the things, that we have annually that occurs, we have a neighborhood-wide garage sale. And that neighborhood garage sale, we put an ad in the paper, and I think we get about maybe 20 houses or so, but it's usually a big event. A lot of people come to it. We also do an annual neighborhood picnic. And this year we teamed up with the Albany Police Department. I'm sure you've seen that they do pop-up barbecues throughout the city. And so that was actually a big relief to us as a neighborhood association because we didn't have to front the cost. The police department came and they made burgers and hot dogs and stuff for people, and it was just great. It was a great spot. We actually did it at the Woodlawn Park, which is not in our neighborhood association, but I don't think that they are very active at the moment. But it's close by, and it was a good location to do that. One of the other things that we do annually is we have a movie under the stars night, and so the lawn on Stage College, it's a big lawn. I'm sure many of you have seen that. We team up with Christ Church of Albany, and they come and they put a movie on. They bring a bouncy house. It's always a really good night. It's a good family night, and even Emac and Bolio's came and they had an ice cream truck selling their ice cream. So it was a good night for the neighborhood. And then lastly, one of the successful events that we've been doing is Halloween on Hackett Boulevard. The city, I think it was last year, started a pop-up Halloween events throughout the city where they were giving away pumpkins and some candies to kids to try to then encourage them to be outside, but not necessarily going house to house and a central location. That's been a very successful event. We've heard a lot of positive feedback from the community and people bringing their kids to this event. So that's always a great thing. One other thing I want to touch upon is within our neighborhood, it's classified as a naturally occurring retirement community, also known as NORC. So those are for older adults. In this neighborhood, NORC is comprised like a 3-mile catchment radius. So it's mostly our neighborhood, but it also includes Pine Hills and I think some other surrounding neighborhoods. But we had an idea during the pandemic that a lot of people didn't want to get out of their house, that couldn't get out of their house. So we teamed up with Raganese, and we did a pilot project where NORC orchestrated. They reached out to their members to see who needed meal deliveries. And we just got volunteers from the neighborhood association that went and delivered the meals and picked up the meals from Raganese and delivered them throughout the neighborhood. But that's actually something, if folks are interested in doing something like that, feel free to reach out to us because it's not just the Helderberg Neighborhood Association. In fact, a lot of the people who were requesting these meals were living in the Pine Hills neighborhood, but we still did deliver to them. So if that's something you guys are interested in, feel free to let us know. And one other thing I'm going to mention is that on Hackett Boulevard, we have a rain garden. Some of you may know that on Hackett Boulevard down towards Holland Avenue, there's a lot of flooding that occurs. A lot of that flooding that's occurring is coming from our neighborhood, actually. So we've been trying to do whatever we can to try to, mitigate the rain. There's been some street redevelopments occurring where the street was widened, but it also had like drainage that was put on the streets. And the rain garden has like natural native species, native plants that are to the neighborhood. So it helps keep it clean, and it's an area for a lot of the rain runoff to go. So I think that's it. If anybody has any questions, feel free.
Hi there, Chris. My name is Janet.
Yep, there you go, Jan.
Hi, I'm in the Whitehall neighborhood. First of all, I want to say thank you for the clarification. I had no idea that the old Palladium was definitely a temporary post office site. I knew there were some rumors about it, but there was never any real clarity for me in my neighborhood, that is. So thanks for that clarification. Mm-hmm. And I'm very impressed. I'm very familiar with the NORC project, and I don't know if people realize how fortunate we are that there's so few NORCs in the country, the naturally occurring communities.
Retirement community, yeah.
Communities for people to age in place in their home. And I think what you did with Raganese is magnificent. I'm really impressed. But the other thing I also wanted to say is I am also involved in the Honest Weight Food Co-op here in Albany. And I just wanted to say, if you can plug something into your meetings, letting folks know, and this applies to everyone, not just the Helderberg neighborhood, but the Maria College location does have a food co-op cafe. There are A-frames and they're not clear to people. Anyone is invited. It's open to the public. You do not have to be a member. Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, the Maria College Cafe is open. You can get breakfast, you can get lunch, you can get dinner. It's mostly sandwiches, breakfast sandwiches. It's nothing at all like the co-op, the food co-op on 100 Watervliet Avenue. It's a mini version of that. So I just wanted to put that out there because of the fact that you're in a walkable community, as am I, for people to go there. So the doors are open for everyone, Monday through Friday, 8 to 6. Thank you.
Thanks. Do you have any, Janet, if you have any flyers on that, I don't know if they're advertising for that, that'd be something that, we certainly would be willing to put out on our social media channels to the neighborhood and start to get the word out. That's not a
I
problem.
can get something to you, Chris. What's the best way for me to contact you?
Sure. So you can email the Helderberg Neighborhood Association. So it's hna@hnaalbany.com.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll do that.
You're welcome.
Great.
One other thing I wanted to touch on, sorry, Zach.
Go ahead, Chris. Yep, go ahead.
One of the other things that we've been focused on when the neighborhood association, I just want to put this out there, didn't take a stance on the development of 563 New Scotland Avenue. But a lot of the concerns that were brought up from neighborhood members were traffic along New Scotland Avenue. So that is one thing that the neighborhood association has been engaged on, and is traffic calming. We did try to engage the city of Albany. They did a traffic study several years ago around the hospital area, around St. Peter's and getting onto 85. And, we really were just trying to follow up with the city on that. They have not really been responsive to us. They had their own recommendations, and it doesn't appear that a lot of those recommendations have even been put in place for several years now. But that is something that we've been looking at, is trying to focus on traffic calming. Assemblymember Pat Fahey, she's been proactive with us in terms of the CDTA has a program called Universal Access, where employers provide their employees with free access to use the CDTA in an effort to slow traffic or to calm traffic. And the Albany Medical Center is part of it. Albany College of Pharmacy is part of it. We've been trying to put pressure on St. Peter's Hospital to offer that to their employees, because we think that will additionally help the traffic. I see Michelle, you have some question.
Michelle has her hand up.
Yeah, I do. I just want to say, how did you get 119 people interested in your neighborhood association? I think that's amazing.
Yeah, that's been a big effort of ours over the past year. We excuse me, we had over the past years, our membership has decreased significantly. So we wanted to make a special focus on engaging our members. We don't really have a big volunteer base, but we did have one volunteer who proactively, we put together a list of all of the former members who are no longer active. And our volunteer went through this list, either tried contacting them by email or by phone, and asked them if they wanted to renew their membership or if they would be interested in, and it made a significant impact. Okay. We have explored using paid social media, Facebook ads in terms of trying to boost. I don't necessarily know if that's been extremely helpful. Maybe more so helpful with getting the words out about our neighborhood meetings, but just being proactive with emails and following up with people and having somebody dedicated to do that has been the real winner on that.
Okay, that's great. Do you think I know you were saying that the post office was a big focus on that for your neighborhood this year. Do you think that's driving some of the increased membership also?
I don't actually. I don't think that really has. I think the current board under Hillary Papineau, who's our chair, she's been really proactive in terms of being more engaged. And I think that our neighbors are seeing that we're actually trying to do something. We're trying to save the post office. We're trying to help with traffic calming issues. We're trying to engage businesses and listening to them and their needs, like, that they want more lighting. And, so I think it's more of just trying to be proactive and listen to people.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for bringing up the traffic on New Scotland. I actually got an email from a resident in the Helderberg neighborhood about dangerous drivers near the school, near the businesses on New Scotland. So,
Yeah.
have you gotten other complaints?
We've heard a lot about it. Most of the, some people have mentioned on Academy Road that people drive fast. I know most of the traffic concerns we hear about is just a lot of traffic on New Scotland Avenue around rush hour. That's mostly it. It's not necessarily fast drivers. I will say though that when they redeveloped the site over near where like the fountain is, that little strip of restaurants and businesses over there, they put in one of those crosswalks where there's light. There's the push button where when somebody crosses the street, it lights up and flashes. I think that's been helpful. I do think, unfortunately, though, a lot of drivers don't know what that means. I personally witnessed people just driving through them, even though the lights are flashing, people are trying to walk, and it's very frustrating. But I think that's been helpful too. And I think if there's more of those, that would be even better. One other thing, last I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I keep my bad, but one last thing I'm going to say. As a neighborhood association, one of the things that we wanted to do, I know along Delaware Avenue, they have the banner signs along the street poles, and they say, the Delaware neighborhood, or, and those are really nice for the neighborhood. And it really brands neighborhood and provides this cohesive feel to the neighborhood. That's one thing that, we wanted to do along New Scotland Avenue. But, there's lots of things in the way, and particularly insurance costs. So as neighborhood associations, I think it'd be something worth considering is that if, as a group of neighborhood associations, if we could pull together maybe to have an insurance pool that we can all use. So it's not just one neighborhood association getting liability insurance, but I don't know if anybody else has that issue where they're looking for liability insurance, but if they are, that'd be something that I'd be interested in hearing about.
Chris,
All right.
Chris, I don't know if this is the time or the place, but this is Janet Nally from Whitehall. I did a lot of the Heroes Work Here banners last year, the ones that were with the rainbow, the 518 rainbow, and I didn't run up against any issues that you're referring to when I did St. Peter's Hospital.
Was it on St. Peter's Hospital? Did they own the poles?
It was on St. Peter's Hospital property, and I put up several. I got permission. I got permission and everything. I didn't do it, unilaterally.
Are these the pole banners that hang off of the telephone poles, like up above the ground? You're referring to?
No, these were the pandemic, and it was to honor the folks working in the hospitals.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, those are great.
So I'm just saying that I didn't run into any issues that you're describing regarding. I'm losing my train of thought here.
So what we were looking to do is put the pole banners that you might see, like along Central Avenue, for example. They have several pole banners along the telephone poles. They're high off the ground. Sometimes they have flower baskets hanging from them. That's what I'm referring to. In order to you have to have insurance, because if something falls on a vehicle or a person, you need liability insurance from the city.
Okay. All right. I may be able to help you with that whole banner process if you're interested, and getting getting a good price on banners, possibly. So
Right.
you can contact me. I have your information.
Thanks, Janet.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Thanks very much for coming to speak about Helderberg. Appreciate it. Okay, now we're going to go to representatives from the Melrose Neighborhood Association. Thank you very much for joining us. Who's going first?
Pat, you want to jump in? You're on mute.
Yourself, Pat.
Okay, I'll go first and then Maura, you want to run with it? We've been in existence for 30 plus years. We originally had a traditional organization, president, vice president, et cetera. But then, and we did do the median planning under the leadership of Jim Lyons on the Brevedor medians. Then what really galvanized us is we had multiple flooding events. There was 110 claims against the city for damages because we had sewage overflows. And that really galvanized the neighborhood. And what it resulted in is us taking the city to administrative court, and it forced them, because they were going to get fined by the DEC, to put in catch basins. So that's been an ongoing process. Thankfully, with the new water commissioner, he's been very receptive. We've put in permeable pavement streets on Hawthorne, and we're looking for grant money to increase the size of the catch basins to further mitigate the flooding. We've also advocated for rain gardens and composting and check valves. And also, I'm sorry, the borders are really easy. Washington, Western, Manning, and Brevedor. And we also advocated to not change the zoning on the Jesse Buell house, which is on 637 Western. They wanted it to convert it into a rehabilitative facility for the ministry for priests who had problems. We argued it was a historic house and needed to stay zone R1. That was successful. We changed our organizational structure to the current structure. It's a board. We want it to be more inclusive. It works much better than having yearly elections for president, vice president, et cetera, because it doesn't seem to antagonize anybody. And it's been great working with the board. We've worked on Claremont Park issues. We worked on planning issues, codes, a lot of, and the water department. And we had the last Zoom meeting was tremendous. We had a lot of turnout. And I'm going to pass it over to Maura, one of my co-board members, if she's there. Because I don't know how many. I don't know.
I'm sorry, Katina.
I don't know how many names we have on the list, or you can. I'm handing off. I don't know how many people, but I was impressed with the last Zoom meeting, and you can take up the issues from there.
Yeah, we had how many people are on the mailing list? I can't remember. It might, Pat, probably, you might have a better idea, but I don't know.
I think we have about 100
right?
on the email list.
Okay. And we get, we've been doing, obviously, meeting on Zoom, and, we've had pretty decent turnout on our last meeting. So that was good. The other piece of it is also that, what galvanized the most current incarnation, and I'm not sure if you said this, Katina, but they had cut down some of the trees on Melrose, and that was really what triggered a lot of us getting together and creating our current incarnation. And then, but I feel like, Katina, you pretty much covered everything. And Pat, do you want to talk about the mailings?
Oops, you know what? The other thing, Maura, we forgot the Brevedor plans.
Right. You want to speak to that? It's a good thing you're on the ball here, Katina.
You can speak.
It's been a long day today.
I can talk about that. At our last Zoom meeting, we had the Chris from the, Zach Powell from the Department of Planning talking about an application that they've made to the state for funding to improve Brevedor, which is a constant theme on our meetings. that people speed, there's a lot of potholes, it's like an airport runway. And so we're hoping if they get money, then we'll have input into what they do for traffic calming. And in terms of what Maura was saying about mailing, every Sunday I look in the Times Union and see who buys a house in our neighborhood, and I send them a flyer, a welcome flyer, and give them information about the neighborhood association and see Click Fix and Next Door. So they know those are kind of the big things to know about when you move in. It hasn't generated a lot of registrations, but also most of us, when we walk around, if I see people, I'll say, oh, are you on the mailing list for the neighborhood association? So it's good. And I like the governing structure also. Rosemont Park has been sometimes a source of stress if people have unauthorized parties. So we've worked with the Parks Department and the police to try to make sure we're all on top of it. And as Katina said, codes issues with certain houses. So that's all from me.
Yeah, that's all from me. And just a shout out to everybody on the recent code issue, and thank you to Officer Webster once again. So, and that's all from me.
Thank you. We have Dan Van Riper with his hand up, Lincoln Park. Dan, go ahead.
Hi, you mentioned you had a lawsuit against the city about the water issues. I hadn't heard about any of this. You mentioned that you were demanding catch basins. When was this lawsuit filed? How long did it go on? And is this lawsuit the reason why the city installed catch basins in several spots around the city?
Yes, well, and I'm digging from my memory banks, because we had multiple flooding issues, and Dan Hirschberg and the prior water commissioner, whose name escapes me, was not responsive at all. And we had 110 documented incidences of over $1,000 worth of damage. And what we did under the auspice, Jim Lyons was really the driver. He took them to court, and he took, it didn't actually get to court administrative. The city decided, okay, before the DEC instituted the fine structure, because they were discharging obviously into the Hudson violation of the Clean Water Act, and they were going to be fined exponentially. They said, okay, here's our solution. We'll come up with catch basins. So Hirschberg put in the catch basins. I'm not an engineer. Later to find out we still had ongoing water issues. The catch basins were undersized. So then the city came up with the check valve, and finally with Joe Coffey is now trying to get grants to put in the correct size basins and do tree mitigation strategies and permeable pavement. But we had multiple sewage overflows. So I can't remember, I'm sorry, I can't remember the specifics because it was like 2005. I have to dig in my notes. And some of my notes unfortunately went out with the sewer because they were in the basement.
This all went right past me. So it was during the Jennings administration. That's
yes. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
And then
Thank you very much.
Subsequent water commissioners and we were in constant contact with Zone 4. Now there is a flood map of who was flooded with how much damage. Unfortunately, all the claims were deemed to be act of God. So, it is what it is. But we are now, at least, like I said, we are moving slowly, but we're moving in the right direction.
So it sounds like this suit, it didn't get any claims, as you said, but it did force the city to get off its butt and start doing something about this basic infrastructure problem.
Yeah, because granted, you can't separate sewage from storm. I understand that. That's $1 billion project, but at the same time, you can't have sewage flowing into people's basements. Like one person had 25 grand worth of damage. The foundation's cracked, and you call the city, and the city said it's not our concern. It was never their concern. And we don't have pump out ability, whereas other municipalities all had pump out ability if your basement was flooded. And we had elderly who were inconvenient, who were calling me really upset saying my basement's flooded. I can't clean it. And the city's not responsive. So.
Well, thank you for kicking the city's butt. Appreciate that.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, my position was they should have responded and not stonewalled. And thanks.
All right. Anybody else got questions for Melrose neighborhood? All right. All right. We're going to move on to Joe Wilson. He is the vice president of the Mount Hope Neighborhood Association. Joe, thank you for coming to Cana to present tonight. Whenever you're ready.
I think I'm unmuted, am I?
You're good. Yep.
Okay. I'm glad to be here. We've had a very successful last year, considering the fact that, we were in a pandemic. I think the fact that we went virtual, well, I don't think it's easily demonstrated that we went from 6 attendees to at this point 26 and growing. So that was a big growth. And we are, doing more outreach at this point. Members of the association are planning to go door to door and do some recruitment in terms of, bringing people on and participating in, as volunteers within the neighborhood. Our boundaries are from South Pearl Street up to Route 9W, including Mount Hope Drive and Garland Court, and the businesses at the top of Mount Hope Drive, which is now called the Mount Hope, or the Mount Hope Commons. So we're going to be outreaching to them as well in terms of hoping to have them become members of the neighborhood association. We've had some real success this year. We've had issues with speeding due to the increase in, I think, the growing interest in the top of the hill on 9W. There's been speeding. There's been a lot more traffic. We actually, on a positive note, we were able to get CDTA to run a bus in the up direction of the hill. It was always just coming down. So now there's buses going by in both directions. I think one of the things that was one of the people who was instrumental was Sonia Frederick, our Common Council representative, because she really, pushed for us in terms of, city administrators. We did have a petition that was signed by, I believe, like 75 people in the neighborhood, which again, we were very surprised to get that kind of a response. I think the city was too. And they did do a traffic study, and we've had meetings, Zoom attending meetings by Bill Trudeau, and they actually turned out to be very positive in terms of, it was determined that there was excessive traffic on Mount Hope Drive itself. And fortunately, we were lucky enough to be one of the members that are going to be included in the testing of putting speed humps, installing them through the city grant. So that hopefully is going to begin in the spring, and we hope that'll resolve the issue of people at least speeding up and down our Mount Hope area. We also have, for the first time, had a lot of good interaction with our neighborhood engagement officer, Kevin Singh, and a lot of good feedback from him, a lot of good advice. Being able to contact him in terms of via cell phone and what are appropriate calls to make to him as opposed to the police non-emergency number, the 911 number, etc. We've also had meetings with Frank Zioli, and he's the Department of General Services Commissioner, regarding some other issues that we've had on the street in terms of garbage being left behind from the city trucks going by, and different things. And again, in a very positive way with good outcomes, which has, been frustrating in the past because you bring these issues up and you don't get much resolve. But we feel like we are being heard, and we are getting resolution. Also, this year we updated our bylaws with the fantastic help of Zach, which really needed to be done. And I think, I heard the word incarnation, being used tonight, and it certainly, I think we're having that or a resurgence. People are becoming more interested. Our neighborhood is not that large, but there are a lot of people who have lived here a very long time. And again, we are going to be starting a campaign to go door to door and see if we can involve people in terms of coming back, as well as just joining the association. The other piece is that in the past we never had winter meetings, and because we are on Zoom now, there will be year-round meetings, which again is very helpful. We've been delivering newsletters door to door and not getting a whole lot of response from that. I mean, we're still feeling on our way with that, but hopefully we'll make some headway with that. What else? Oh, we're also in the process right now of reestablishing our welcome brochure and working on a welcome wagon type thing in terms of when people move in, new folks move into the neighborhood. And I think that's our update. It's all good. We're very encouraged. We're moving forward, and we're excited about the fact that we've gone from 6 members literally to 26 and growing. So
Thank you, Joe. We have a couple of hands up. Let's go with Ed Brennan and Norma School Neighborhood Association. Ed.
Hi, Joseph. Congratulations on getting the speed humps. And I was always told by people at the traffic that is impossible. We can't do that here because of the snow plows, especially. And what changed their mind? How'd you do that?
I think what we found out, well, first of all, there's a large grant given to the city, so there's a few other areas in the city. I think because we brought it to the attention most recently on the heels of them getting this grant.
Okay.
We just were positioned right. They also, I have to note that they're not calling them speed bumps, they're speed humps. So I understand that they're not as involved as a speed bump would be in terms of having issues with the buses or plows.
Are these like temporary devices that can be brought in and taken out at will, or are these like permanent, sort of like built into the concrete type of thing?
My understanding is that they are temporary.
Okay. All right, I got a better picture of it now. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Pat Doyle, Norris.
That was my exact question, because we had asked for a speed reduction on Rosemont next to the park. And we were told not even an option because of snow. So maybe they're doing a pilot program over there on Mount Hope. And if it works, maybe we'd be able to get some.
Yes, Pat, it's definitely a pilot program. It's happening, and I believe 5 other neighborhoods. We're one of 5.
Great. Do you know how I can find out where the other ones are?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure anybody in the mayor's office would be glad to give you that information. She was very excited about this project.
Thank you.
All right, Vince in Eagle Hill.
Joe, could you tell me, what did you call these speed bumps before? Because I am another neighborhood that tried to get them and was told that I couldn't have them because of plowing.
Right, and we were told that also. It wasn't until there was a grant that became available, and they're called speed humps.
Humps, H-U-M-P-S?
Right.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, everybody, for presenting your neighborhood associations this year. I appreciate it. Nice job. Nice job. Got a couple of things coming up here. Committee reports. John O'Grady, do you have anything on codes committee?
The next meeting will be January, February. We're just in the process of setting it up now. Next meeting with Rick LaJoy.
All right. Let's see. So we have a couple presentations tonight for new business. Let's first go to Katie McKittrick. She is with the Albany Water Department, and she's going to talk to us tonight about the lead service replacement program. Thank you, Katie. Good seeing you, as always.
Hi, good to see you. I will be quick. I know I mentioned this. I think we have some new faces. So I'm Katie. I'm an engineer for the water department. I know I mentioned this a couple meetings back when we were talking about the Hawthorne project, the porous pavement project that you mentioned. Mostly today, I'll go over really briefly what our program is, what the opportunities are. But I think this was a perfect meeting to be on, just because what I want you to take away is that you should schedule a time for me to come and present to your individual neighborhood association. So I'll actually just put my email in the chat really quick, so you have that. And then I'll also share this presentation with Zach so that he can pass it along. But again, I'll try to be quick, since I know we did talk about some of this before. Okay. So this is the same presentation I would give to your neighborhood associations, except I would add a few more things, mostly about risk mitigation if you're not going to do a filter, or if you're not going to replace your lead service, and just some more in-depth information about the impacts of lead and who that impacts. But really briefly, if you're not familiar, I borrowed this image from the city of Des Moines, because our water system works the same way. We have a water main either out in the road or in the sidewalk, or sometimes in the lawn, running this way. And any homeowner's water service runs from our larger main into the home, typically into the basement in Albany homes. So that's how water gets from our main large city pipe to your home. Typically, these are made out of lead, galvanized steel, or copper. Ideally copper. In our older homes, most likely lead. So in the 1940s, they started phasing lead out, but we do still see lead in homes from the 1960s even. So definitely a good idea to check. If you are able to go down to your basement to check, you'll want to look for this black box, kind of circular. That's your water meter. And you'll want to find the pipe that is coming from the ground or from the wall into that water meter. It's going to have an inlet, which is from the ground or from the wall, into the meter, and then outgoing from the meter, you'll see it go into the rest of your interior piping in your home. We have some more information about what to look for and how to know if that service is lead or if it's copper online. And everybody has probably seen this information as well in their water bills. If you get that either online or paper, we've sent it to everybody. And in the next 3 months or so, you'll also be seeing more program information in your water bill. So keep an eye out for that. We have a place where you can report what your service is if you're confident about what you're seeing. You can also call the water department and schedule an appointment with one of our technicians to come out and actually look at your basement, tell you where your water's coming in and what material that your water service is. So that could be an easier solution, especially for some of our more elderly people who are not interested in heading down to their basement and looking for pipes. So Okay, so this is where I'm skipping over some of the more detailed information that I'll be happy to share with your neighborhood associations, but real briefly, I'll just mention the two opportunities that we have through the water department right now. One is a free water filter if your water samples at or above 10 parts per billion, which is the EPA establishes a threshold at 15 parts per billion. That kind of stands as the threshold for concern as a level of lead in water. So below that, at 10 parts per billion, we start offering a free filter. This is just a Brita pitcher that goes in your fridge. And we have a cartridge in there that is good for 6 months. So after the 6 months, you would have to go to the hardware store online and get a $15 refillable cartridge. A couple ways, easy ways to sample your water. There are other ways besides these, but one is for free through the Department of Health at that link. Their sampling is free, but can take about 6 weeks. You can also pay a private lab. You can even do this through Home Depot or other hardware stores. You can pay $40 to have your water sampled, and while that's not free, it comes back in a couple days. So depending on what you're looking for and how quickly you're looking for it. If you don't sample above 10 parts per billion, but you're still interested in the filter, they're also available at grocery stores, hardware stores, or online for $20 to $30. Happy to talk about that more. There are also different kinds of filters. We just hand out the Brita pitcher because it is the easiest. There's no installation. There's not really any instruction involved, and it works for everyone, whereas the faucet filters don't necessarily work for every faucet. The other, probably more important opportunity that we're offering is a grant program to reimburse the cost of homeowners replacing their lead services. So we'll offer up to $2,000 for a full service replacement. As we're kind of gathering more data as the grant program goes on, we're finding that if the water main is in your lawn, the cost can be as low as $3,000 total. If it's out in the street, the cost is more. And that is kind of, we're still gathering that data, but I have here what that can cost. This is the only way to mitigate the risk from having a lead service. A filter certainly does help, but removing the line entirely is the best way to remove the risk of lead. And beyond the water department's $2,000 funding, there's also additional funding through Albany Community Development Agency, either for homeowners that live in the home and fall within a certain income range, or homeowners that rent their home out to tenants that are within a certain income range. So particularly, I think that's a really good opportunity for landlords to be replacing lead service lines for their tenants, because many programs, landlords don't qualify for grant funding because they don't live in the homes. For these ones, they do, both ACDA and ours. So very good opportunities. We're trying very hard to get the word out to our most vulnerable communities. In particular, we've had really good response from some of our upper wards, less response because we have so many renters in our lower wards. So certainly I'm happy to see that there's so many neighborhood associations on the meeting tonight. Please reach out and we'll schedule a time at one of your upcoming smaller meetings, your neighborhood association meetings, to discuss the program. And I am happy to answer questions and send you the information beforehand so that people have an opportunity to kind of see if they can look in their basements and know if they have a lead line and what kind of questions they might have before coming to that meeting even. So anybody have questions for me on that?
I think Alan, go ahead.
Katie, thank you. You were at a BNA meeting, I believe a couple of years ago, and actually it was very informative. But the question that I have, as a result of that meeting, I started to look for where our shutoff, my shutoff valve was, and I couldn't find it. Even with a metal detector, I couldn't find it. Roughly, how deep is the line that would run through the yard?
Yeah, the line itself is about 5 feet deep.
Oh, okay, no wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, but there should be a shutoff valve closer to the surface under the grass, but it's
Okay.
really super common that you can't find it. So you're not alone in that. And we do have staff that can help to locate it through a couple different methods if you schedule an appointment to do that. Particularly if you are interested in having work done, they will be able to help you with that.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Katie.
Howie, go ahead.
So, Katie, thanks for presenting. But what is the process for applying for a grant from the city? And do you pay like the money up front, or do you? Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So this is just for this grant. The backwater water valve grant works a little bit differently. This one is very, very simple to apply for. Basically, I only need to confirm that you have lead service before you're eligible for grant funding, and that's it. I do suggest 2 quotes, and we have a list of contractors, and I always do recommend using the Nextdoor app or your neighbors for recommendations on contractors too. But yes, you're exactly right. You have a private contractor do the work for you and then pay them directly. And once you have a paid receipt, you send me that paid receipt and a voucher that verifies what your address is, and I send you a check. So it takes about 3 weeks to a month.
So when you said, so you have to pay up front though?
Yes.
The full amount and then get reimbursed.
Yes. And I have, I think the audit department is still kind of thinking about it and maybe isn't going to let me do it very much longer. I'm not sure, but you can finance with a contractor as well. And that counts as paying your contractor.
Okay. And then the other question, do the contractors have a big backlog now? Like, for
That's
example,
a great question. My contractors have been getting busier, certainly because of the interest in replacing lead services. However, I have not run into a situation where somebody's not able to find a contractor yet. And also, I think it's actually helping my contractors become a little bit more competitive with their prices. There are certainly still some contractors who their prices always come in well over what I would expect, and I'll let people know that if the average price of what I think their work should be is not what they're seeing in their quotes. But I think our contractors have gotten a little bit more competitive with their pricing because there are so many people requesting the work.
So then how many grants have you given out so far?
Good question. We are into the, I think 60s or 70s. It's over $100,000 since June.
Right. And then, so when you said check with your neighbors, has the water department thought about like enabling on the water department site for people to indicate what their experience has been with contractors?
That's a good idea. I don't think that we ever have considered that. I can take that to my outreach team though and see what they think about that. There are some, we have to be careful about recommendations. We do have a list of contractors that are in good standing with the water department, with their permits and such. But yes, that's something that we could think about.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Yeah, Vince, go ahead.
Katie, on your lead service, and I think Howie brought it up that where you have to pay up front, and this is the 15th ward, and unfortunately, our streets aren't lined with gold. So to come up with between $4,000 to $6,000 to before I even get to $2,000 is a job in itself. If you come out here in Eagle Hill, that the majority of the people are somewhat old, just like myself. So to come up with that type of money and to pull it out of the kitty, not knowing what kind of catastrophe we might have in the ongoing. So I'm not saying the program is a good program. The money end is not a good program. So I think you have to come up with something a little bit better for that, for the people in the 15th Ward to say, you know, I got lead service and I'm going to change it. Well, I don't think that's going to happen out here just because of the age of the people. And so I do know that the guy up on the corner, he had sore trouble. And when he had the sore fixed, that the plumber said, you got lead service. And to do it, it's going to cost him $3,000 because it was already dug up. But at that time, they were giving material and not money. And he says the additional cost, he just didn't have it. He just did not have it. So again, program is good. You got to come up with a better way to disperse the money. For me to shell out between $4,000 to $6,000, that's a job in itself. Thank you.
If I may just, follow up on that a bit, because as Vince was saying, a number of us are seniors. Now I'll raise my hand to that issue, well over a senior at this point in time. But I know with the city, as an example, like for taxes, I'm also a veteran, combat veteran. Are there any benefits as a result of that, as there are, as an example, in our tax situation here? And also being a senior, for that matter, maybe something to consider how that can be played in, because I think a lot of us still want it done. We'd rather die of something else at our old age than lead poisoning. But in paying taxes might be another option. I mean, not of dying, but just as a way of getting around some of these mitigating circumstances.
I think it's good to mention at this time that Albany Community Development Agency also has grant funding available for seniors. It's a senior specific program. It's still income based, so that's something to note. But for the Albany Community Development Agency grants, you do not have to pay up front. So if you are, you do fall within one of those income qualifying tables, those are up to $5,000 and you don't pay up front, and the Albany Water grant would still supplement after that. So if it did happen to be more than $5,000, which we have not had that case happen yet.
Okay, question. Howie, go ahead.
Yeah, so just for Vince, I had read early on about the brochure when I got my brochure from the water department about lead. So actually at that time, the city sent somebody out and tested our water, and we below the 10. And I actually tried to get a contractor at that time to replace my water line. And at that time, the city wasn't recommending anybody, and we had to find our own. And they seemed few and far between. And they seemed to have backlog of work because, replacing the water line was kind of viewed as it was discretionary. Other people had sewer issues. So by the time we waited, we ended up going with a water filter on the cold water intake in the kitchen where we get our drinking water from. I just want to bring that up as kind of a low cost option. And the filter was really kind of easy to put in. You just divert your water tap from the cold water. The cold water intake goes into the filter, comes out to the faucet. Granted, it's only in the kitchen that you have the water, but that's where you get the most of your cold water, and we replace it once a year. So. And
also, the city of Albany does sample every 3 years as part of compliance with the EPA, and we are below the EPA's threshold for concern, if you will. We sample below 15 parts per billion, which I mentioned earlier, for 90% of our samples. We do them in every ward. So that is important as well. While we highly encourage lead service replacement, and we are, obviously this program is in its infancy. We just started in June. So it has room to evolve, certainly, especially if we receive federal funding for lead service replacement. It has room to evolve, but this is a way for anyone to have access to a lead service replacement at this time if they want to. And if they can't at this time and they are sampling high, then they have access to a free filter.
So let me ask you, Katie, so going on that, you said you might get a grant. So let's say, right, a bunch of neighbors that who are right next to each other need their lead pipes replaced. Is that something the city could work out with a contractor to do like a whole block at a time?
Yeah, we actually have done that in a couple cases where we have major excavation on the street. Like, for example, we just replaced a water main on Catherine Street. And as part of the replacement of that water main on Catherine Street, we have major excavation, and it makes sense for us also to do the lead service replacements there, and we did them at no cost to the homeowners. So we can't do that. We don't have the billions of dollars to be able to do that on every street right now, but that is something that we're incorporating slowly.
No, but I'm saying that where you didn't do any street work and you get a bunch of applications from neighbors who are in the same area, right? Because there must be some economy of scale by people coming out to an area.
Certainly. Yeah, I actually have a group of 9 homeowners on Lancaster thinking about doing that. So they've reached out to a contractor, and by all of them doing it together, they're probably going to be able to save a little bit that way. And we could probably also look at that to see if there's anything that the city could help with in that case. The federal funding, I think, will also help with those larger scale projects, street-wide projects, if we see funding in numbers that we're hoping to see it in. But we actually have no idea when or how much or anything like that yet. So, but that is something that we're talking about. Larger projects is how we would like to use that. There is a bang for the buck. There is an economy of scale there.
Okay. All right. Katie, thank you very much for coming to present to Cana tonight. As always, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go on to, Katina has a question. Katina, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to clarify, because I was just informed by my in-house legislative analyst that the city can lower certain streets to 25. Not the whole city. They don't need legislative approval. It's in the vehicle and traffic law, which I just put the section on the chat. So just a clarification of the earlier point. They can't move the whole city to 25, but they can move specific streets. It just requires common council approval. Just to clarify that.
Thanks. Okay.
Thanks. Sorry, Zach.
That's okay. All right. We have Paul Collins Hackett. He's here to talk about the community leadership team of the law enforcement diversion program. So, Paul, thank you. Whenever you're ready, sir, go right ahead. Thank you very much.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. I know it's getting kind of late, so I'll try. I won't take up too much time, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with the program, so I'll give like a general overview of it. And again, stop me if there's any questions. So the LEAD program itself is the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program. And the idea is it takes some pressure off of our cops. It kind of breaks some cycles. And in this way, it can help restore faith between the community and the police. You know, obviously, you know, we're all around. We see what 2020 was. There's a lot of tense feelings and stuff like that. The more we can do to work with the police to kind of reestablish these relationships and create trust, the better. So the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program is one opportunity for us to do that. It's not in that many cities. I think we're like the 3rd city that did it, but it's great. And what happens is when someone is arrested for a petty crime, they have the option of being diverted into services. So for example, we've had mothers at the Marillac Family Shelter out on Washington Ave, the Washington Ave extension. Sometimes they get caught shoplifting formula, at Walmart. And the idea is we can arrest them if we want to, but that's not really going to help them. In that case, they need services. They need parenting help. They need this, that, and the third. So if the complainant, the officer, and the offender all agree, then they have the opportunity to divert that arrest. If that arrest is diverted, then the offender doesn't have an arrest that pops up on their record. And instead, they have to talk to Catholic Charities to do services with them. Catholic Charities does an assessment. They do like case management. They connect them with whether it's mental health or parenting resources or whatever it looks like. Catholic Charities kind of makes those connections and supports them in that way. And then the goal is if they participate in services and everything goes according to plan, then there's no arrest. If for some reason they don't comply and don't participate in services, then the arrest pops back up. But the idea is it's an opportunity for them to avoid an arrest, opportunity for cops to, have other options at their disposal so they can kind of work with people in the community that, they know maybe there's a different option that works better for this person. Now myself, I'm part of the community leadership team. And what that is we work with APD, the city, the DA's office, a bunch of other stakeholders, just to make sure that we're getting the word out about the program. We have some oversight. We're focusing on the program to see, if there's issues, how do we address them? Sometimes we had discussions about what charges would be included. Obviously, there's a lot like murder and stuff like that is not included. That can't be diverted. But we've had those conversations and we have the opportunity as community members to have input and again, weigh in on those things and influence them to some degree. Now the highlights, we've had a lot of people who have gone through the program, like I said, and they've received services, avoided arrest, and it's been great. And in those cases, we have those individuals that we can bring with APD to different places and say, look, this is the proof of concept, this program works. It's a way for cops to, again, have tools at their disposal, not always be the bad guy, and kind of break those weird relationships that kind of, are current. It's extra good that we have the support of the chief. We have some issues whenever we have issues of like data and stuff like that. If we need charts or we need specific numbers, we can usually work with APD to get those things. So it's a very trusting relationship at this point. Now, also, there's a lot of people who don't believe in the program. They don't want it to happen. Some cops are like, yeah, I don't have time for this. Other people are like, hey, it won't work. But for us, we have seen the numbers gone down. We have seen cops are able to interact with just people on a regular basis without as much friction or tension. And that's always a good thing. That's what we're really happy about. So for me, I'm here to kind of tell everybody about the LEAD program, what's going on, how you can be involved, again, to make people aware, because if the opportunity does arise, again, everyone has to agree to the process, the offender, the complainant, and the officer. So awareness is key, making sure that, everybody knows what's going on. I was even at Price Chopper and I saw like a similar incident and an APD officer was on the scene and I just had a conversation with him and I'm like, hey, bro, I don't want to bother. Obviously, I don't want to get in the middle of anything. I'm like, but it seems like, again, she's shoplifting formula and stuff. Is there a way that she's applicable for LEAD? Can we do that? And he's like, yeah, so we're able to work out and kind of intervene and help. So we just want everybody to know, what tools are at their disposal and that Albany does have programs and is moving, in a progressive way to work with people and kind of create those community connections. There's, they do the pop-up barbecues and whatnot, and that's great, and this is just one level that's kind of a programmatic and systemic change that, it's really gone over well with a lot of people. So yeah, I've been talking for a little bit. If there's any questions, let me know.
I've been asking for a while now about the numbers. How many people have been involved in the LEAD program and how successful has it been? And, you know, for like 3 years now, I have not been able to get an answer to that question.
Yeah, that's been a question on our plates too. One thing I'm able to say, we're getting close to around 300 participants who have been in the program. Now, they've all had varying degrees of success. Catholic Charities actually has the best data on that, and we're working with them for HIPAA and stuff to try and get accurate numbers. So
But
we have.
Wouldn't it be good publicity to, you know, give out those numbers and make them public?
Yeah, 100%. Unfortunately, when there's a lot of red tape that has to be worked out. So even when it comes to dealing with a person, APD has their own privacy about, you know, what information they can disclose. And then when you involve Catholic Charities, there's a whole nother level of that about their clients. So it's hard to get data that's, you know, clear, you know. So there are efforts, and we're trying to work closer with Catholic Charities to develop kind of those systems, those charts, those reports that were like, hey, listen, if I give you a report that says just fill in these numbers and I don't ask for this names or identifying information, can you give me that? So we're working on ways to get that data, and we actually have a data committee that was just formed to kind of address those things and move a little bit faster. So we absolutely want the data too, because, you know, it would help if I could just drop numbers on this call. It'd be great. And like, yeah. So, you know.
Yeah, well, it would be nice to have numbers that just indicated a degree of success. You know, I mean, really, you know, we hear about how great it is, but nothing shows, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we have numbers, and I can talk to Catholic Charities about the easiest number is, out of the almost 300 who have participated, how many have been rearrested, how many didn't comply, right? And those are numbers that we can get from Catholic Charities. But like I said, we have to go over there and meet with them. It's a weird data transfer thing.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Paul, for coming. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Got one more item of new business tonight. Louise McNeely with Sheridan Hollow in Delaware area. She wanted to just talk to us real quick about the New York State Homeowner Assistance Fund.
Yes, thanks, Zach. I have a couple neighborhood associations, but tonight I'm with the Affordable Housing Partnership and the Home Save Coalition, and I know we've spoken to Kina before. I put some of the information in the chat because I know that, you know, half the folks have had to leave the call, but I do have a really important message for the homeowners in your neighborhood associations. We've been charged by the state to get the word out to homeowners about a new program. As you know, there was funding for tenants, and hopefully there'll be some more again, but right now there isn't, and there's funding for landlords. But we've been waiting for this money to come down from the federal government to the state to help homeowners that were impacted by COVID. So they're behind on their mortgages, they're behind on their taxes, or if they live in a manufactured home park, they're behind on those fees or the chattel loans. So the kinds of things that are payments associated with homeowning. The application, there's like 30 days that people are going to have a chance to apply. That website is opening up in January, so they want all of us to get out and let our neighbors know about this, so that they can get their information together, they can meet with housing counselors, they can get ready to apply. The funding is capped at $50,000 per household, but it'll be based on what you need to be able to sustain and keep yourself in the home. The most important thing is, for many people in our area, being able to stay in a home they own is actually more affordable than having to rent at this point. So it's really important that we figure out how to get these services to the homeowners in your neighborhood that might be struggling with their mortgages or other fees. There is, I think Zach's got a flyer to put up, but I can certainly get you all flyers that has the link to the website. The website and the call center are already open. you can't apply yet, but those are open and they have lots of, information about facts and what, how you can apply and what whether you're eligible or not. And none of this is all, you're all getting the secret pre-information because Governor Hochul is going to be announcing all this next week. But the money that is available to the state, I think it's $540 million. As you all know, that could be spent in Long Island in a week. So it's really important for us to reach out to homeowners in this, in the cities that we care about, in the neighborhoods that are our priority, to make sure that those resources also come to our neighborhoods. So as I said, the link and the phone number and such are in the chat. Even if you don't want to apply for funding because you're behind, not because of COVID, you should still contact us because we've had a long-term foreclosure prevention, counseling, and legal services coalition in this area that is available to help you negotiate or get a loan modification, those sorts of things, whether you're eligible for this money or not. So thanks very much for letting me talk to you about that.
Thanks, Louise. We actually have a question coming from Ed Brennan, Normanville. Ed?
Hi, did I hear you say that there's only there's a window of 30 days from January? Yeah. Okay, I wasn't clear if I heard that right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think, I'll tell you, it could change. Right now, they're saying that we're going to have a month for all of us that are working on this, their housing agencies and legal service agencies. We're going to have a month to get these applications in because they're kind of trying to avoid what happened with ERAP. However, 40% of the money has to go to socially disadvantaged groups, which are, it's actually everybody that comes to us for counseling, actually. It's people of color, it's immigrants, it's people where English isn't their first language, it's seniors, it's people who don't have computers. So some of the money is set aside for those folks. If they haven't gone through that money yet, then the program will be extended a little longer, but they suspect that all the money will go very quickly, and which is why I'm very intent in getting the word out here in the Capital Region.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Louise. And I'll send out the flyer to the listserv so everybody has it. Appreciate it. All right. Just want to mention our upcoming meetings. In January, we have Darius Shanfar, City Treasurer, and Dr. Dorcia Pleers, City Auditor. February, it's going to be Mayor Kathy Sheehan. March, we have Assembly Members Pat Fahey and John McDonald. April is to be determined. Have a couple of ideas. And then May, we have the Albany City School District and the Albany Public Library coming. So, does anybody have anything else before we adjourn the meeting? Okay. Well, all right. Well, have a happy holiday, everybody. We'll see you at the new year. Hopefully it'll be a prosperous and healthy one. So
Thank you, Zach.
thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Have a good holiday, everybody.